Have you ever realized how so many companies have a culture of non-performance? I grew up being mentored by strong women and excuses didn't apply. But now I have a hard time in culture where non-performance is okay. Ugh. This is a tricky one because, do I say that on every question? I think I might say that on every question, but this is a tricky one. So I agree. I hate non-performance, and I really wouldn't spend any more time than you absolutely have to unless you are making a boatload of money in a company of non-performance. But I think the reality is probably a little bit more gray than that, which is there are non-performing people in most every company. It really has a lot to do with the manager and the leader of those groups. Like, I think you can have a company like Barstool Sports is even a good example, where we have super high functioning groups and then we have other groups that are non-performing. And it probably has more to do with the boss and the culture that that person sets than with the company at large. But in general, I think non-performance is becoming more prevalent. COVID makes it harder to manage performance. COVID made it harder to manage performance. Remote work makes it harder to create culture. So I think creating vibrant cultures at work is only going to get more difficult. And the best thing that you can do is to find a place where you're pushed. You may not like it, but especially early in your career, being pushed, even if you're at a job that you hate and that you last 6 months at, 6 months of having your ass kicked is a good experience that you'll take with you for the rest of your life. I wish more people looked for that. Do you have any advice for rebuilding or reestablishing your reputation with peers and direct reports after moving to a new business unit in your current company? For context, I recently applied for an internal promotion in a different business unit after taking some advice you've said on the pod about putting yourself out there and taking risks. How awesome is that? I received the promotion, good for you, and now will be in a different area of the business where very few people know me or my quality of work. Additionally, I come from a different career background than most people in the role. Okay, so one, congratulations, like way to put yourself out there, way to get promoted, way to be transferred to a new business unit. That must be scary and overwhelming and awesome and kind of intimidating, and they probably have a lot of trepidation. I would not worry about it. Like, if you weren't qualified, if you weren't the right person for the job, you wouldn't have gotten the job. What I would do is when you get to your new position, ask as many questions as you humanly can. Listen to people. Take the time to get inputs from them. Act engaged. Even when they bore the shit out of you, just act engaged. Take notes. Be respectful. I think listening makes people feel that you're interested in what they're doing. It makes them feel like you're aligned in what you're trying to achieve together. It makes them feel heard, obviously, and it makes them feel like you have a relationship. So that's the foundation. When you're asking all those questions and they're giving you all those answers, you're obviously going to respond back, and you can talk a little bit about what you've done, why it's been great, what you've learned, how you failed. I think it's super important to be vulnerable. What you've learned, what you tried and didn't work, and also where you come from. And in that conversation, you'll learn a lot about the people you're going to work with, and they'll learn a lot about you. And in the process, you'll develop a relationship that you can build on instead of being like, this is me, look what I've done, look at how great I am, look at everything I've accomplished. Like, nobody's going to want to hear that. But having a conversation and engaging in a dialogue with people will make them advocates for you. And if they're not advocates, they will at least understand where you come from and what you've done, and you will be able to say the same of them. All right, what are the best ways to help employees that are not working in the same office as you or that are working completely remotely? This is tough. I think remote work is changing everything. It's making it hard to create a sense of team. It's making it hard to create a sense of connection. I spend so much time at Barstool looking at how people show up in their Zooms, and like half the time someone's like this far away from the screen, half the time their face is too close to the screen, half the time it's like talking to my mother where it's like just her forehead. Like, you got to be conscious, I think, of how you show up in Zoom. Or over video, especially if you're remote. But that's a different question for a different day. To answer the question of how you help people who are remote, pick up the phone, like call them, ask them how they're doing, send a text being like, how's it going? How you feeling today? What's going on? What's happening? Don't always exist within the schedule. Like not everything has to be a video call. Not everything has to be on a calendar. Sometimes it's like the impromptu, how are you, which can make people feel connected across offices or when they're outside of the office and you're inside the office. I think the second thing is to have consistent meetings at consistent times. I struggle with this. I'm not always very good about this, but I think one of the hardest things about working remotely is like a sense of FOMO, and you're missing something or you don't know what's happened or you've missed things. And so really making sure that you have consistent meetings where conversations take place, that can be really, really important and can help remote people feel connected. And then like use the mail, like send a letter, send a care package, surprise them, delight them, you know what I mean? Like make them feel like you're close, even if you're physically far away.